Even if they are 1/4 of what the numbers are being moved around, we need to think through and be ahead of the cycle in terms of the regulatory regime and think through कि हम ये AI और digital assets को कैसे आगे लेके चलें. Priority sectors की बात की है, SME, agriculture, finance, housing and construction. Now, a lot of banks are already doing this, especially when it comes to SME. A lot of mid-sized banks are actually playing a very important role, especially around the S part of the SME, right? And whatever you are doing in terms of moving from collateral lending into cash flow lending and using algorithmic models, etc., that's the way to go. But I would encourage other large banks to come in and help the SME sector. Please don't say कि ये नहीं हो सकता, वो नहीं हो सकता. अगर मिड साइज बैंक्स आपको करके दिखा रहे हैं, इसमें आप आइए. Because देखिए, one thing that I have been very clear in the government and in the cabinet, we are not going to go back into directed lending. That's the wrong thing to do, and it does not serve anyone's purpose. So आपने जो बात की incentivization की, we will do what we have to do in terms of providing the necessary subsidy, in terms of providing first loss guarantees from Ministry of Finance. वो हम आपको ज़रूर support करेंगे. इसी तरह agriculture finance, whether it's crops, and even more importantly, what we need to do in terms of dairy and livestock, and then housing and construction. जैसे आपने जिक्र किया, I did meet the Honorable Chief Justice Yahya Afridi Saab, and he was very reassuring in terms of the foreclosure laws and getting those going. उन्होंने जो मुझे नोट वापस भेजा उसमें in terms of special and specialized benches and also the training of the judiciary in the judicial academy. So it's very encouraging that he responded within a couple of days of meeting him. लेकिन हम आपको इसमें हेल्प करेंगे. इसमें देखें फाइनेंसिंग भी है जफर मसूद साहब और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग भी है. तो आपने ये बात दुरुस्त की है कि आप अपनी बैलेंस शीट्स को दुरुस्त करें, आप अपनी इनकम स्टेट्स को दुरुस्त करें. लेकिन आई नो रहमत हसनी साहब इधर बैठे हैं, जब इनके प्रेडिसेसर यहाँ होते थे, ही डिड अ वेरी गुड जॉब एट नेशनल बैंक इन टर्म्स ऑफ गेटिंग टू सम ऑफ द ट्रेनिंग्स फॉर द SMEs. तो आप समीडा के साथ मिलकर काम करें, बिकॉज ये उनका रोल है. एज फार आई एम कंसर्न, मैंने तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर का कहा था कि इस मीडा को बंद करें. इन्होंने 30-40 साल से किया क्या है इस मुल्क में, अगर ये कैपेसिटी नहीं बिल्ड कर सके. बट एनी केस द प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैज टेकन हिज अंडर हिज विंग्स, बट आप उनके साथ काम करें और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग में आप हमारी जो है हेल्प करें. द नेक्स्ट वन इज डिजिटल बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन. आई थिंक वी हैव कम अ लॉन्ग वे. From my perspective, digital is not an end in itself. It's a means to end. It's better, it's cheaper, it's faster. And also, Atif, आप भी ये बात करते रहते हैं, war on cash, right? And whatever we need to do in terms of getting the POS machines and QR codes, और देखें ये जो अलूला में भी बड़ी बात हुई, most of these emerging markets are now on their digital transformation journey. Because they know it's not only financial inclusion, but now some of them are actually advanced enough to talk about AI and digital assets. I know we have our own views at this point in time in terms of regulatory regime, कि अभी हम CBDCs की बात कर रहे हैं, etc. बात कर रहे हैं. But the reality is कि अगर crypto already in vogue है in the informal market and the numbers are what they are, even if they are 1/4 of what the numbers are being moved around, we need to think through and be ahead of the cycle in terms of the regulatory regime and think through कि हम ये AI और digital assets को कैसे आगे लेके चलें. Infrastructure finance, public-private partnership, again, some of the banks are already participating in that, both on the debt and equity side. I do think we need to scale it up. Green financing की बात हुई है. It's good to know that the State Bank is now going to roll out the green taxonomy. I do think we are late. We should have done it some time back. Some of the banks are actually already ahead and they're already working on green taxonomy, because the green taxonomy आएगी तो पता चलेगा which projects can be designed, structured, monitored and reported on international standards. So मैं 2-3 दिन पहले Senator Shahri Rahman asked me to join the Senate committee on climate change, and I said the same thing there. कि ये फाइनेंसिंग तो जो एवेन्यूज हैं वो हमारे पास मल्टीलैटरल से भी हैं, some of the VC funds are coming in and all of that, but ultimately it's coming up with bankable, investable projects. And that's where I do think the banks can play a very important role. इसी तरह जो transition to Islamic banking, आपने जैसे जिक्र किया, the industry is moving in that direction, but take advantage of the international experts that you have in this conference. Chansari is here. I had the pleasure and privilege of listening to him a few months back or a year back. My good friend and ex-colleague Rafe Hanif, he's here from Malaysia. Meri Iqbal Khan sahab se mulaqat nahi hui. I look forward to seeing him during the break. It's all about learning from others. ये जो हमारा mantra है कि हमें सब कुछ पता है इस मुल्क में, इसको थोड़ा सा एक साइड पे अगले दो दिनों के लिए इसको साइड पे रख दे. हमें बहुत कुछ पता है. But let's take advantage of learning from others. Governance and compliance. The banking industry was off the gates in a very big way in terms of KYC, AML, sanctions, transaction monitoring, in terms of getting us on the right side of FATF. लेकिन ये जो मैंने देखा है आपके प्रोग्राम में कि आप eKYC को लॉन्च करने जा रहे हैं और उसकी फॉर्मल लॉन्च है, आपको बहुत मुबारक हो. I think that's going to go a long way in terms of client service, but also using the blockchain technology that you're using to get things moving in the right direction. And the last thing I would mention is that banking industry and capital markets have to go hand in hand, because ये जो आप पे सारा बोझ पड़ता है, whether it's on the government side, on the private sector side, capital markets को actually gone back. It was back in 99, 2000 that we were talking about WABDA mini retail bonds, mini bonds उस वक्त. So some of the other, we've gone in the wrong direction. So the way I look at it, you and capital markets are joined at the hips, and whatever you can do in terms of, sukuk structure, REITs, etc. And now the banks have been allowed in terms of equity capital markets. I never understood how can banks not be allowed. I mean, most of in the global world, ECM is one of the fantastic way that you leverage your balance sheet. So वो अब आपको मिल गया है. So not only at the GEM board, but in terms of the mainstream advisory and structuring of IPOs, and it's good to see the new IPOs which are coming up in 24 and 25. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I again want to